You're listening to The Okanagan Reader, where we present readings of short stories and other works that have been released under a Creative Commons license by their creators. You are free to listen to and share these readings as set out in their version of the Creative Commons license. Today's reading is the conclusion of The Juniper Tree, written by John Kessel and narrated by Jim Bowering. It's a short story in the collection The Baum Plan for Financial Independence. And now, the conclusion of The Juniper Tree by John Kessel. He began meeting Jamira Tamsla's daughter in the sauna at the gym. They would claim one of the private alcoves and fuck. The heat of the sauna made him forget his burning skin. There was nothing wrong with it. There was nothing right about it. Roz was always out. Eva stayed away even longer at the labs, sometimes not coming back at night until he was asleep. The mysterious absences grew until one night it had been a full 24 hours since Jack had last seen either Eva or Roz. It was fertile ground for worry. Someone had found Carey's pressure suit. Roz had not hidden it well enough, and now she was in trouble. Or Eva had tricked her into an admission. She had broken down, given in to guilt. His phone rang. He touched the contact on his wristward. "Dad, can you meet me at Fabrication Research?" Roz's voice was charged with excitement. He hadn't heard her sound so young in months. "What is it, Roz?" "You won't believe it. All our troubles are over. We're resurrecting Carey." "What?" "The assembler. I can't tell you more now. Someone might hear. Come at 3 o'clock. If anyone asks, tell them you're going somewhere else." "Is Eva there?" "Yes, I've got to go now. See you at 3 o'clock. Roz," he felt sick. Resurrecting Carey? Roz must have told Eva what had happened. Still, what could he do but go? Jack paced the rooms for hours. He left after somatic midnight. The perimeter road to the north airlock was quiet. There was a slight breeze, a hum of insects around the lights. He told the lock attendant he was going to biotech. When he sealed up his suit, he felt he could not breathe. He checked the readouts repeatedly, but despite the evidence that nothing was wrong, he still felt stifled. Sweat trickled down his neck into his collar. Outside, the sun hammered down, and the glare of the baked surface hid the stars. He upped the polarization on his faceplate, but still his eyes hurt. He followed the road from the airlock between the fields of solar collectors to the ramp entrance to the Fabrication Research Lab. He passed through the radiation maze, opened the outer door of the lab airlock. When he stripped off his suit, his shirt was soaked with sweat. He wiped his arm across his brow, ran his fingers through his sweaty hair. He waited. He did not open the inner door. And if, by some miracle, they did recreate Carey, Roz said that all their troubles would be over. They could go back to who they were. Fat chance. He had hoped that coming to the society would offer Roz a freedom that he could not earn for her on Earth. No one on the moon knew him. And even if he did fail again, among the cousins, a father's faults would not determine how others saw his daughter. Roz could be herself, not some reflection of him. As he stood there, poised before the inner locked door, he had a sudden memory of Helen on their honeymoon. On the beach at St. Kitts, Helen had surprised him by wearing a new bikini, so small that when she pulled off her shorts and t-shirt, she was clearly self-conscious, but proud in some way. He remembered feeling protective of her, and puzzled and a little sorry. It hit him for the first time that she was fighting her body for his attention, and how sad that must be for her. On the one hand, to know she had this power over him that came simply from her sexuality, and on the other that she, Helen, was someone completely apart from that body that drew him like a magnet. For a moment, he had seen himself from the outside. He'd been ashamed of his own sexuality and the way it threatened to deform their relationship. Who was she, really? Who was he? At the time, he had taken her in his arms, smiled, complimented her. He had felt sure that with time they would know each other completely. How pathetic. After the breakup, he had at least thought that he could know his daughter. That was why he needed Roz, so he could love someone without sex coming in the way. To love someone without caring about himself. How stupid he had been. Whether they'd come here or not, inevitably she would have seen him differently, or been destroyed by trying not to. Whether he'd killed Carey or not, Roz would have to fight to escape the mirror he held up to her. With a sick feeling in his gut, he realized he had lost his daughter. He was so hot. He was burning up. He shut his eyes and tried not to see or hear anything, but there was a roaring in his ears like a turbulent storm, and his eyes burned and flashed like lightning. He would feel better if he went outside. Instead of opening the inner airlock door, he put his pressure suit back on and opened the outside door. It was bright and hot out on the surface, but in the shadows of the rocks it would be cool. He stepped out of the shadow of the radiation baffle, up the ramp to the dusty surface. Instead of following the path back to the colony, he struck off between the rows of solar collectors toward a giant boulder that loomed on the horizon. As he walked, on his sleeve keyboard he punched in the override code for his suit's pressure fail-safes. By the time he had reached the chill shadow of the rock, all that remained between him and relief was the manual helmet release. He reached up to his neck and felt for the latch. He was so hot. He was burning up. But soon he would be cool again. Happy ending. When the indicators showed the airlock was occupied, they waited for Jack to enter the lab. Instead, after a few minutes, the outer door of the airlock reopened and he left again. Roz was worried. "I'm going to see what he's up to," she told Eva. She pulled on her pressure suit and waited the maddening few minutes it took the lock to cycle. As soon as pressure was equalized, she slid open the outer door and ran up the ramp. There was no sign of her father on the path back to Fowler, but as she followed the footprints away from the ramp, she spotted a figure in the distance heading out toward the hills. Roz hurried after, skipping as fast as she could without lurching off onto the solar collectors. When she caught up, he was on his knees in the shadow of a big rock, jerking about spasmodically. The strangeness of his motion alarmed her. She had never seen anyone move like that. Before she could reach him, he slowed, stopped, and fell slowly onto his side. Calmly, quietly. Less like a fall, more like the drift of a feather. She rushed to his side and saw that he had broken the seal on his helmet. "No," she screamed, and the sound of her voice echoed in her ears. Jack's face was purple, with broken blood vessels, his eyes bloody. He was dead. High G, they called her, because she was so strong, and it was a good thing, as she carried her father's body back to the fabrication lab. It was Roz's idea to put Jack's corpse into the assembler to add the materials of his body to the atoms used to create Carey. There would be hell to pay with security, but Eva agreed to do it. The assembly took 7 days. When the others at the colony discovered what Eva was doing, there was some debate, but they let the process continue. At the end of the week, the fluid supporting the nanomachines was drained off, revealing Carey's perfect body. Carey shuddered and coughed, and they helped him out of the assembler. To him, it was 6 months earlier, and his mother had just completed his scan. It took him a long time to accept that he had not fallen into some dream only seconds after he had been placed in the marble, to awaken in this vat of warm fluid. He thought he was the original, not the copy. For all practical purposes, he was right. Later, as they were finding a pressure suit they could adapt to Carey's size to take him home, he asked Roz, "Where's Jack?" All this happened a long time ago. Nora Sobieski founded the Society of Cousins to free girls like Roz of the feeling that they must depend on their fathers or boyfriends for their sense of self, and incidentally to free boys like Carey of the need to prove themselves superior to other boys by owning girls like Roz. Girls still go through infatuations, still fall in love, still feel the influence of men as well as of women. But Roz and Eva in the end are actually in the same boat, a boat that does not contain Jack or even Carey. The young junipers stand ghostly gray in the night. The air is fragrant with pinon. In the thin, clear starlight, Roz can see wildflowers blooming beneath the trees. Columbine, pennyroyal, groundsel. She sits on the slope and pulls Carey's ring from her pocket. The ring is fashioned into the image of 2 vines that twine around each other, each with no beginning and no end, each eternally separate from the other. Roz holds the ring in the middle of her palm, wondering if she should get rid of it at last, knowing that she can never give it back and keep her father's secret.